Hey YouTube, Ultra Magnum here, and today we're taking a look at Fans Toys Spoiler, the masterpiece representation of Breakdown. If you're new to my channel, please take a second to hit the subscribe button down below. Okay, here we go. In terms of accessories, there is just one, but that's all you expect from the character. It's exceptionally well painted, really immaculate, and there is a small amount of sculpted detail, but what is there is equally well done. Standard masterpiece grip on the hand, there are no clearance issues against the wrist, so that's good, and it holds super snug even with the hand open. Good stuff. On my copy there is, unfortunately, a fingerprint that's found its way onto the underside. So a bit of quality control there, and I'm going to knock a point off for that. Final score, 9 out of 10. On to Poseability, and he's generally very good, although he's a little bit awkward around the feet, but we'll get to that. So the head's on a swivel, and you get a good up and a bit of down as well. The arms extend 90 degrees to the side, you get a full range round, it's on a soft ratchet here, that's all good. There's no butterfly joint, but there is an upper bicep swivel, so it gives you that articulation all the way around, as it were. And also the elbow is on a double, so really good. The hands are individually articulated on the fingers and thumb, so that's all good. You get full waist swivel. It does kind of break a little bit if you go beyond this point, but you don't really want to go much further than that, I'm guessing. The ab crunch is there, but it is very tight. There's a kind of tab in there that just locks it into this metal section, so on the first go that is extremely tight to kind of release, so that's something to note. The hip skirts individual on each side, there's a center section there that comes up, and also at the back as well. You get a full range forward on a ratchet and a good bit back. It stops there just because of the clearance against that back hip skirt. The knees are on a double hinge, so you can get full kickback, as it were. There is a little tab here which sometimes gets in the way, but there we go. The feet are a little bit awkward for me. They have to be kind of sat in just the right place underneath the leg, otherwise the back of the doors here have a tendency to be lower than the actual feet themselves, so you kind of have to have them in this position only if he stood straight. Otherwise, you do have to rock them around a little bit. So if you have them further forward like this, you can see the issue there kind of presents itself, and you have to have them in an A stance if you want the feet that far forward. It does work if it's back like that, but just something to note. So all round, oh, and I should say, he obviously has an ankle rocker to the side, and you do get a foot tilt as well. With these, there is a tendency for this to break at the back when you're tilting backwards, but you know, if you're doing that kind of pose anyway, you expect some kind of you know, the figure to open up in a way, as it were. So good range all around, to be honest. I tried it with all the poses on the box art, and they all worked, so that was good. And in terms of weight distribution, he's very well balanced. There's die cast all throughout, and it's evenly placed as well. He can't do anything crazy, and that's simply just due to the kind of the skinniness of the figure. So he doesn't have any kind of chunkiness, so you're going to find it difficult to kind of balance him, basically. Despite that weight distribution being well placed, you can't do the roundhouse and all of that kind of stuff. At least I can't anyway. I have tried the breakdancing pose. It just doesn't work. There's not enough surface area on here to do that. So we kind of had to settle for a handstand with a bit of help from the back wall there. There you go. So he does have good all-round articulation, and the things he does well, he does really well. But the feet are a little annoying to place, and I really don't like that ab crunch, the way you have to kind of snap it out. So I'm going to knock some points off for that. 7 out of 10 on Poseability. In terms of scale, here he's against Op Leader, and you can see he's probably too big in terms of your normal masterpiece scale, if you like. He's a good head height, taller than Sideswipe tracks, and those kind of the Autobot cars, the Takara ones. I don't know one to hand show you, but he is, and you can see here against Op Leader, he is too tall. But if I put him up against Road King, he's absolutely bang on. This looks fantastic to me. It looks really great, and this just illustrates a point that I've made before, which is that the onus is really on fans' toys to release their own Optimus and Megatron and the main characters, because they're working to a scale that is slightly bigger than every other line. So I think if they're doing that, the onus is on them to release those main characters. So scale wise, I'm going to have to knock 2 points off because he's not consistent with anything else. He does have the internal consistency with Road King and other fans' toys figures, but that's not enough. So 8 out of 10. If we do quality first, in terms of materials, there is tons of die cast in this figure, and he's got a great heft to it. You notice it straight away when you pick him up. What's really impressive though is the fact that the bits that aren't die cast are totally consistent with the bits that are, because of the way that the paint's applied. So this, I think the upper thigh is die cast, but this part here is plastic, and there's no discernible difference in the look. And equally, so this is plastic, but these parts are metal, and again the paint is just so consistent. So it's beautifully done from that respect. It really is an immaculate job. Sculpt wise, there's not a massive amount of detail from the front, but what is there is really well done. So I like this kind of thing, the translucent panels over the detail underneath. I think it just makes a figure pop. There's grill work on the front, and some sculpting die-cast parts down on the legs. And again, the details, there's not a paint blemish anywhere on anything. It's really well done from that point of view. The face has nice details on it, and the helmet, nice little touches, and the blue part is really well painted. The red part I don't like, I'll be honest. I think it's just got this kind of shiny glint to it. It makes it look kind of oily. I'm not sure what the choice there. I noticed that on the DX9 as well, so maybe it's something about the color and the way it has to be done. I just don't like it. It is noticeable to me anyway. Looks wise, he's very consistent with the G1 cartoon. I think this part of the helmet could have been bigger to be fully consistent, but I actually prefer the look of this to the cartoon, so that's personal preference. In terms of face, this is the face that he comes with, but I think it looks a little sour and lifeless, so I've popped the alternate face on to give him a bit of character and a bit of presence on the shelf, if you like. Cleanup wise, from the front he cleans up immaculately. From the back there are a few issues. So it's made this like kibbly bits, so these wobble around and you notice it when you're moving the arms. These are very irritating when you're moving the legs. They're on a ball joint, and both of these things I just wish they'd found a way to tab them in as part of the engineering. That's a shame. The bottom of the feet, you notice the doors are a kind of issue when you come around the back, and this looks just kind of open and stuff. But having said all that, critical kind of points, really you don't notice it any of the cleanup issues. Oh, one thing I should mention, there's lots of screws and kind of open, but there we go. You don't notice all of that stuff because it's just so well done from the front, to be honest. And even if you're posing him sideways, he's got a great look to the side, if you like. There's no gappiness or anything. It's really well done. It's a really well done figure in that respect. Presence wise, he's just got bags of it because the quality shines through. The fact that he looks like Breakdown, it's got great character, particularly with the alternate face on. It's got great character, great look to it, and from the front the presence is just brilliant. So overall, quality, sculpt and presence, 9 out of 10. Okay, so it's not a fun transformation from my perspective. There are too many places where you're uncomfortably relying on the figure to snap things into place. So this section up here with the arms folding in, you have to kind of force those in the end just to get them in place. And the legs, there's a little bit where you turn it all around on itself and it snaps into place, but there's that nervous kind of moment where you think, oh, you know, have I done that right? And you have, but it's just that kind of clicking feeling. And similarly, when the top comes down, there's no real way to get it down without it jarring against the doors on the side there, at least not that I've found. And just in general, there's lots of squeezing together of stuff, so lots of uncomfortable kind of movements. So in that respect, I would mark it down quite heavily because that's not a fun transformation for me. But on the positive side, pushing it back, is that the figure is made from really solid materials. The design of the engineering is excellent in the sense that everything that moves is backed up by solid parts that allow it to move, if that makes sense. So there's no uncomfortable clearances where the materials are dodgy as well. So because all the materials on this are super solid, so anything uncomfortable is backed up by a super solid part. Now that doesn't let it off the hook as such for me, but it does mitigate it a little. So final score on transformation and engineering, 7 out of 10. In terms of alt mode, it is absolutely excellent. It really is. First off, first impressions are the heft, because it is so heavy due to the diecast. It feels like a model, like a replica of a Lamborghini, you know, one of those diecast models, really chunky stuff. So that's great. It looks fantastic. It looks to me like a really great representation of a Lamborghini. For the most part, they've managed to keep it clean in terms of the lines of the transformation are not massively noticeable because it's been integrated into the kind of design of the car, if you like, and there's not much there for the bits that are visible. The cleanup overall is really good. The one noticeable part is this hinge in the middle. Now, if this was any other transformer, you wouldn't notice it, but because everything else is so clean looking, this does stand out a little bit. And it's just a shame because if that had been painted with the same quality finish of some of the other plastics, that wouldn't have been as noticeable. So you know, minor point, but you know, I have to kind of point it out. Kibble wise, there's nothing. Yeah, even underneath is really clean, to be honest. You wouldn't say that that's particularly a bot under there, so it's really good stuff. And also nice little details of the headlights on the front there, so it is really good stuff. Just a couple of minor points. 9 out of 10. So there we have it. Taking all that into account, he gets a final score of 8.5 out of 10. He's got great quality, excellent paint and finish, and good sculpt all round. He's got good poseability, but there's a couple of niggly points, and he's in scale as far as fans toys goes, but loses it with the other masterpiece kind of figures out there. The real downside to this figure is the transformation for me. It's too involved. It's well supported with the engineering, but it's just not fun, bottom line. But overall, this is a good figure and I can absolutely recommend it, whether it's a standalone or if you're a fans toys collector. This is probably a definite, and in particular, if you're collecting for Marauder, you've got to have this figure. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, and please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Bye for now.